Blog Talk Radio.
All Pro Media Group Radio showcases professionals on a daily basis. Be inspired and listen to experts from around the globe share their accomplishments with you. APMG Radio, success at its finest.
You're listening to APMG Radio. I'm Lucy, and today I'm pleased to introduce our special guest, who is an author and also the founder of the Straight Spouse Network. It's my pleasure to welcome to the show Amity Buxton. Amity, thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's a pleasure always to join you.
It's great having you on the show. Now, Amity, recently I read an article in the Huffington Post that you had written, and in the article it says, a little-known group is tucked in a corner of the lesbian, gay, bisexual closet, and they are known as the Straight Spouses. Why is this group so invisible to society?
Well, it's understandable, though it's tragic, when a husband or wife in a presumably heterosexual marriage suddenly says, oh, by the way, honey, I'm really gay, or I've just fallen, or the right wife says, I've just fallen in love with my next-door wife. All the attention goes there, and it should, because they've been struggling with this all their lives, and finally they're coming out. But their straight spouse is overlooked, and they're dealing with very similar challenges, but they're overlooked, and the overlooking and the isolation adds to a very serious problem.
And it's funny because before we went live, and I always do this, I'm researching the guests, and as I was doing my research and, Googling straight spouses, the only support network that came up was yours. Nothing else came up, and that's why it baffles me that there's very limited support, but yet I want to talk about the organization. So tell us a little bit about what inspired you to create the Straight Spouse Network.
Well, when my husband came out in the early 80s, there were some support groups around here. He referred me to them very kindly, and then I discovered there were some others. And so I wrote a book called The Other Side of the Closet, and which talks about their major issues, which we can get into later. But the point is that one of the people I interviewed had started a task force with a group organization called PFLAG, Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. And she turned it over to me, and I said to myself, we're not looking for a task force. We're looking for a network of support by peers for one another. And in addition, we need to have some research-based information to help them not only get over their problems, but also to understand the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender issues.
So take us through some of those unique challenges that straight spouses go through.
Okay, I will, and any gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgender listening will recognize the areas in which they fall, because the first challenge is one's sexuality. You think, wasn't I enough of a woman to keep him from turning to a man? Oh my God, I guess I'm just faulty as a man. She had to turn to a woman for her sex, and this whole sexuality is a real challenge, because you feel sexually starved and sexually inadequate. And since most of this happens when people are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, they're not just about to go out and have an orgy to figure out what it's all about. So the sexuality is one issue. Then the issue just simply of the marriage, will it last or won't it? And in most cases, after about 3 years, only 1/6 of the couples have been able to work through some kind of a way they could stay together and both feel satisfied. And then the third big issue, of course, is the children. What's going to happen to the children? Here we are. We're going to have a divorce, and the children will have a gay parent, and they'll be teased at school, and they'll just wonder. And so the challenge there is how to understand and communicate to the children that it's still their parent, gay or not, father or mother who's come out. And then the next three issues which come up about the second or third year after this happens are really profound. One is, who am I anyway? What is my identity? Here I've been married to someone else's closet, and I have no idea who I am. Second is their moral compass, that they feel they've been living somebody else's social lie and in their closet. So they don't have very good judgment, and if they don't trust their own judgment or their husbands or wives or anybody, they're just in a moral mess. And then the third issue is a very interesting one, which I'll get into later maybe, and that's the crisis of faith. Their whole belief system goes out the window. All the assumptions they had about men, about women, about marriage, about life, have just flown out the window. They've just been proved false. So they have a long time to reconfigure their identity, their integrity, and their belief system, and that's the big challenge.
I want to go back to the first challenge that you had mentioned, which was sexuality. And what are some ways in which people can cope? Because I would imagine that that's one of the first reactions is, am I not a woman enough? And, those first initial things come up. So what are some ways in which we can deal with those initial emotions?
Yeah, well, the first thing, it's two things. One is to assure that they're perfectly normal men and women,
right.
And you are very attractive. And so oftentimes we have in our support groups, or sometimes there are regional gatherings. They sort of, they play dating, as it were. They try it out on another straight spouse because the other straight spouse knows what they're going through, and so there's a lot of dating early on, and then some go. In my instance, I answered a lot of ads in the paper and went out with a range of different kind of men, and I'd have to eat them for coffee or dinner, and I could see, okay, he can relate to me. Okay, I guess I'm all right, and I learned out lots of things about myself in the process. So it's a very slow process. Reading about sexuality, I took courses on human sexuality. I had no idea, not a clue what the full range was, and that to me is one of the saddest things because neither party knows what it takes to make a heterosexual light be lit.
Mm-hmm. What about partners who find out that their spouse is bisexual? Do you see that these have a harder time understanding this concept? No, because a bisexual is still attracted to you, and you know that, and there's a very keen difference. I have loads of gay friends and loads of bisexual men friends, and there's a tremendous difference. There isn't that spark. So what has to be decided is with the couple which part, because there's no 50-50 bisexual. They're either way over on one side or way over on the other. And there are many dimensions. There isn't time to go into them. There's many dimensions of bisexuality. So each couple has to figure out, okay, what do we want for each of our happiness? What can we do together? Can it work? Have you now gone over to the other side? You're really totally more gay than you were straight. There's a lot of working out. If they can find a good therapist, and it's hard to find a good therapist who knows anything about it, they can work their way through even better. And it takes 2 or 3 years for them to sort out exactly what it is. And I know lots of couples who have stayed together, one bisexual and the other straight, or two bisexual. Take us through the marriage and couples that you have known stay together. Typically, I think you said, is it 1 in 6 that actually get
1 in 6 after? 1 in 3 try to make it work, and of them, half of them succeed after 3 years, and the other half decide, well, I guess we really can't, but we tried. And incidentally, that 6 who try but doesn't work, their bond, I have found, is probably deeper and sounder than many heterosexual marriages because they worked it through. They tried compromising. They tried everything, but it just didn't work.
Do you have any advice for maybe couples who are considering staying together and going in this direction?
Well, the advice that those couples gave me in the article, the research that I did, was honesty and open communication, so that there's no defensive if somebody says, I really don't like this. Well, okay, what don't you like? How can I change? Or, well, that's really part of me. Open, honest communication, mutual compromise, mutual respect, mutual everything. Just be there, take your time, listen, communicate, love, hug, do all that stuff. But it takes time. Because remember, both of them are facing the same issues I mentioned earlier, but from a different perspective, and so they need to work the two together.
Well, Amity, it's always a pleasure having you on the show. Well, I think, what you had said about the support, about listening, there are so many valuable pieces of information that you shared with us today. I'd love for you to give out the information on how people can contact you and also how they can find out more about the network and how they can purchase your books. Okay. Well, it's very simple. Straight Spouse Network website is www.straightspouse.org. And you can go there, you can get information, you can ask for help. And as for my book, it can be ordered from any local bookstore or from Amazon. And it's Unseen, Unheard, Straight Spouses from Trauma to Transformation. Brilliant. Well, and I co-authored it with an anonymous, a younger straight spouse who remains anonymous, so as not to upset the apple cart. Well, I'm glad that you're out there and sharing all of these words of wisdom and all of this interesting and valuable information for us all. So thank you again. It's been great having you on the show. Thank you, Lucy, very much. I always enjoy it. You've been listening to APMG Radio with my special guest, Amity Buxton. This show and many others can be found at allpromediagroup.com. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Lucy, and you've been listening to APMG Radio.
All Pro Media Group Radio showcases professionals on a daily basis. Be inspired and listen to experts from around the globe share their accomplishments with you. APMG Radio, success at its finest.